There's something about Christmas Eve, isn't there, that I can't quite put my finger on. And I'm not talking about the tinsel and the neon lights and the Christmas TV specials, but I'm talking about that old sense of magic in the air. Because we're finally at this moment. A lot of us have been preparing for Christmas Day from the beginning of the month, if not sooner, and now we are here and we're getting ready to hopefully slow down and really appreciate the season. And our ancestors, they felt that too. They knew that there was something special that sat between the candlelight and the shadows. Across Europe, from Scandinavia to Poland, from the Baltic forest to back here in Britain, people knew that Christmas time was that little bit special. And especially on nights like Christmas Eve, they believed that the animals could actually speak in human voices, and that sometimes the dead might rise to perform Christmas masses of their own. So today, here standing amongst some of Britain's most fantastic monastic ruins, where people still look for transparent figures glistening across the grass, and they listen out for the echoes of a ghostly choir from Christmas Eve night long, long ago.
The Victorians, of course, made Christmas ghost stories fashionable again. Dickens by the fire, and M.R. James reading new horrors to his friends on Christmas Eve. They weren't inventing a new tradition, they were keeping an ancient one alive. A tradition of gathering close to the flames, while something cold pressed in at the windows. And if you stay with me until the end of today's wander through winter and ruin, I have a little ghostly festive treat of my own to share with you. But first, let's begin where so many ghost stories were born, in the monasteries themselves. Ruined places now, but on Christmas Eve perhaps not as silent as they may seem.
Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Claire and this is The Wanderlust Way. First off, let me say a huge thank you to everybody that supports this channel by liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, becoming members, sending super thanks, sending donations. Honestly, everything that you're doing is helping this little corner of the internet to grow. It's allowing me to continue with adventures like this and sharing the stories that I find with you. So today, of course, we are still in December and it's a very special episode because it's another Christmas one. But this time we haven't got the same Christmas vibe that we've had before. We're looking at the darker shadows of the season. The kind of stories that people might have told around a fire on a cold December night. And we're coming to look at the stories and the ghosts and the legends surrounding some of Britain's most fantastic abandoned abbey ruins. So wrap up warm, and we're going to begin with a monk, a monastery, and a set of tales that were never meant to be forgotten. That's enough waffle. Let's wander. When you think of monks, you might think of prayer, silence, devotion, dedication and discipline. You might not necessarily think about writing ghost stories, but a medieval monk at Byland Abbey did exactly that.
Around the early 15th century, in a Yorkshire monastery now long fallen to ruin, an anonymous monk took a religious manuscript and filled the blank pages at the back with 12 ghost stories. A real manuscript, real handwriting, and a real window into medieval fear. These weren't tales told for thrills, they were warnings, exemplar, reminders of what could happen to restless souls left unprayed for, or to travellers foolish enough to walk winter roads without a blessing. There's a story of a tailor riding home on a freezing winter night, the moon smothered behind clouds, when a great black dog steps into the path ahead of him. Its eyes burn like coals, its breath steaming in the cold air. But this is no living creature. It is the swollen spirit of a man buried without absolution, cursed to roam the winter roads until someone takes pity on him. The tailor spurs his horse, but the beast gallops beside him in total silence, keeping pace no matter how fast he rides, as if begging, not hunting. And then there's the one that is solemnly haunting, the ghost of a man so tormented by guilt that even death could not quiet him. Travellers told of meeting him on lonely paths after dusk, a gaunt figure half lost to the dark, fingers like ice gripping at their sleeves, pleading for help. Some swore his voice was barely human, cracked with cold and sorrow. Others said he looked almost alive, until he lowered his hood and the lamplight shone straight through him as if he was made of winter air. He didn't want to frighten anyone. He wanted a message carried to a priest. He wanted his sins confessed, finally, so he could rest.
These were the kinds of tales that a Byland monk wrote down in cramped Latin script by candlelight as the wind clawed against the shutters of the northern abbey.
These writings were not entertainment. They were not fiction, as he understood it, but they were warnings, reminders that winter belonged as much to the dead as to the living, and that a soul left unprayed for might wander until someone showed mercy.
So yes, ghost stories at Christmas go back a very long way, far longer than the Victorian retellings that were happening in their parlours by the fireside, especially at Christmas time. No, the monks had been writing them down for a very long time, and they knew what Midwinter could bring. Our next tale belongs to Wales, to a quiet valley where the ruins of Strata Florida Abbey sit amongst fields and ancient yew, the kind of place where stories cling to the stone like frost.
Local folklore speaks of a lone monk who returns to the abbey on Christmas Day, not at midnight, but at dawn when the world is colourless and still. Witnesses, few but persistent, say he appears where the high altar once stood, bending as though to rebuild it, stone by invisible stone. Not frightening, just steady, patient, devoted. Other tales whisper of candles burning inside the empty ruins, or faint music drifting across the grass, as if the old community slips back into its place for a moment of Christmas worship. It isn't recorded history, it isn't fact. It is legend, but old ruins breed legends like winter breeds shadows. And in a place torn apart during the dissolution, the idea of a monk returning each Christmas to rebuild what was destroyed, there's a sadness to that, a beauty too, and an echo of unfinished devotion.
Monks lived by rhythm, silence, prayer, devotion, the turning of the seasons. And whether you believe in ghosts or not, there's something about the thought of a soul returning to continue with the rhythm that it knew in life. Our next tale takes us back to Yorkshire, but this time we are going to the coast, to one of my favourite spots in the entire world. A byland where the sea never rests and where the winter wind sweeps through the whalebone arches. I'm talking, of course, about Whitby and Whitby Abbey. Now, Whitby Abbey's ruins sit high on the top of the cliff and they completely dominate the landscape. They were, of course, built by human hands, but they are shaped by legend.
Whitby is bursting with old ghost stories and legends. They rise from the harbour like mist, drift through the cobbled streets and settle in the narrow passageways where every turn feels steeped in memory. I've spoken before about this seaside town's hauntings, from the comfort of its old pubs, retelling tales of ghostly fishermen rowing across the waves, their skeletal hands catching the moonlight as they pull against the tide. But for this Christmas video, we're turning our attention, of course, to the most iconic landmark of all, the Abbey. Whitby Abbey looms high above the town, perched on a wind-scoured headland, its skeletal arches casting long shadows over the church of St Mary's and its ancient graveyard. Row after row of leaning headstones crumble into the salty sea air, their inscriptions fading as though the stories they once told are slowly being reclaimed by the elements. This place has layers. In its earliest days, under St Hilda in the 7th century, Whitby was an Anglo-Saxon double monastery, a community of both men and women living and worshipping side by side. Centuries later, it was refounded as a Benedictine house, its great church rising into the skyline we recognise today. It's no surprise these ruins have inspired artists and writers for generations, most famously Bram Stoker, who climbed the 199 steps to the churchyard and used the Abbey's dramatic silhouette as the backdrop for Dracula. Whitby seems to breathe Gothic imagination. The atmosphere is half weather, half legend. And among those legends, none is more enduring or more tragic than the tale of the white-robed nun, said to be Constance de Beverley. Her story doesn't come from the Abbey's own records, it comes from later Gothic literature and romantic imagination. According to the legend, Constance broke her vows by falling deeply in love with a knight, and when her sin was discovered, her punishment was beyond cruel. They bricked her up alive within the Abbey walls. No final prayers, no last confession, just stone, darkness, and the slow, suffocating knowledge that no one was coming.
Now, historically, there's no actual evidence of a nun by the name of Constance suffering this fate at Whitby Abbey. Her story is more legend than archive. However, it can't deny the fact that her image still clings to the place.
And the strange thing is, if this is just legend, well, the sightings still come. Visitors have reported seeing a pale woman in a flowing habit drifting along the headland path, her robes snapping in a wind nobody else seems to feel. Others describe a lone figure standing at the cliff's edge, head bowed, hands clasped as if in prayer, only for her to dissolve into sea mist when they look again. Some claim to glimpse her inside the ruins themselves, pressed close against the stonework as if she's trying to push her way through it, and a faint scratching sound like fingertips on rock following them as they walk. All of it is meant to be legend, all of it is unproven, but Whitby is the kind of town where folklore feels just a step away from reality. There is another thread of winter lore here too, one that fits our theme perfectly. Local stories speak of a phantom choir heard at dawn on the 6th of January, once known as Old Christmas Day. In that thin grey light, some claim to hear distant chanting where no living monks remain. Latin phrases drifting on the wind as though the long-gone brothers are keeping to their ancient calendar, untouched by time. None of this can be pinned down on paper, but folklore thrives in places where the air feels charged, a tug of memory, a shiver that might be the cold, or might be something older, echoing over the headland and down those 199 steps.
Now, when I started preparing this video for you guys, it got me thinking about ghost stories in general and about monks and nuns and how they do seem to keep popping up in these ghost stories. Now, obviously, I get it, when we're at the Abbeys, that makes sense. But why are they also appearing in other places too? I mean, if you're not new to the channel, then obviously this year alone, we looked at the story of the monk that was spotted on the Stocksbridge bypass, which is not the road near Sheffield. And then there's that monk that kept appearing and terrorising that family in Pontefract in their home. And I'm wondering why they keep popping up. Now, is it just that during life they were so devoted, so close to God, maybe even closer to heaven, some people might believe, and then that gives them the power to be able to keep returning back to earth? Or is it like we spoke about earlier, about the rhythm, about them coming back for the rhythm of that life? Or is it that they're not monks and nuns at all half the time? Maybe it's just people dressed like that. We recognise the habits and the hoods that they're wearing. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let's have a bit of a debate about this. Why monks and nuns keep popping up. And they do pop up in general horror films as well, don't they, as well? So anyway, back to the story, back to Christmas Eve. Why was Christmas Eve such a magical time for people? Well, we have to look, of course, to the past for the answers on this one.
Long before Christmas took the shape we recognise today, the deep midwinter months were a fearful time. Nights stretched like shadows, the land felt brittle, and across northern Europe, including here in Britain, people believed the winter sky might split open to reveal something ancient and unstoppable. The Wild Hunt. A storm of ghostly riders led by a spectral huntsman sweeping across the skies in the darker months. If the hunt thundered overhead, souls could be taken, and only a lit hearth and a tightly shut door kept the living safe. It was a season for gathering close, sharing stories and keeping the dark at bay, not with cheer, but with watchfulness. When Christianity took root, it didn't quite wash those older fears away. Instead, it layered itself over them. Christmas Eve became a vigil in every sense of the word, a night spent waiting, listening, watching. Churches glowed with candlelight, bells rang through frozen fields. Outside, the world lay silent as though holding its breath. And all those older ideas, of spirits walking, of skies opening, of ancient riders sweeping through the night, well, they lingered quietly in the cultural memory.
So when the Victorians reinvented the tradition of Christmas ghost storytelling, they weren't inventing the atmosphere. They were simply tapping into something that the winter landscape had echoed for centuries.
Dickens with his spirits of past and present, M.R. James reading new horrors aloud to friends on Christmas Eve, Jerome K. Jerome joking that no English Christmas was complete without a ghost story told by the fire. Ghosts and Christmas, they've been companions far longer than we like to admit.
And with that, our story now focuses on the abbey that we've been walking through today, because its stones also hold stories. If you haven't realised yet, we're at Hauntings Abbey in North Yorkshire, founded in 1132 but destroyed in the 1530s by you-know-who. Today it sits as one of Britain's most impressive atmospheric monastic ruins.
Hauntings Abbey lies in a quiet sheltered valley near Ripon in North Yorkshire, a place where the landscape seems to cradle the ruins in its arms. And, if you've ever seen photographs of it, you'll perhaps recognise it instantly. The long run of broken arches marching down the nave, and the vast vaulted solarium stretching out like a stone ribcage beneath the earth. Even in ruin, it is breathtaking. Perhaps even more so because it's ruin.
Now, confession time, actually. This isn't the first time I visited Hauntings Abbey, and I can highly recommend it if you are looking for a day out. It's definitely worth doing one of their tours if you ever come here, because this place is absolutely full of stories and history, both light and dark.
Archaeological surveys have revealed hundreds of graves beneath these grounds. Monks and lay brothers buried here over centuries. Their resting places now softened away by time, grass and winter weather. There are no neat rows of headstones, no carved markers to tell you who lies where. Just the quiet knowledge that visitors walk over these graves every day without ever realising the lives beneath their feet. And then there are the stories, the soft, persistent threads of winter folklore that cling to the stone.
In the Chapel of Nine Altars, visitors have reported hearing the faint sound of chanting. Now, it's not loud and it's not clear, it's just the rise and fall of distant voices. And perhaps that might be a ghostly choir keeping vigil over this place during the cold winter months.
Whether anyone does truly hear it, only they can say. It's folklore again, not fact. But places like this feel almost designed to hold echoes. There's something about the winter that transforms these ruins. The frost settles on the stones like fine winter dust. The air hangs sharp and still, and every footstep seems louder, as though the whole abbey is listening. Here, silence does not feel empty. It feels full, as if the season itself gathers up all the memories of this place and presses them closer to the living.
If you close your eyes for a moment, you can half imagine a medieval Christmas Eve here. The candles flickering in the darkness, the snow gathering in the cloisters, and the monks huddled together in the cold for midnight mass, their voices singing into the darkness, their breath turning to mist. Every Christmas, people light candles, they hang stars in the windows, and they might sing, even sometimes if it's a little bit out of tune. And they perhaps don't realise that they're taking part in something that is far older than a normal choir service. It is a vigil against the darkness, a way of saying, I'm still here, and so are you.
The stories today, the monk rebuilding his altar, the White Nun of Whitby, the Phantom Choir, the Byland manuscript, they sit somewhere between folklore and memory. Not proven facts, not lies either, just the echoes that gather when a place has held so many lives and so many deaths. And there is comfort in that, I think, a reminder that we're not alone in the dark, that the past is never entirely gone, that even the dead may keep their own kind of Christmas.
So that is it. Thank you so much for joining me on this dark Christmas adventure. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the stories and whether you've actually visited any of the abbeys that you can recommend people go to that might be watching this video also. At this point, I want to obviously wish you a very, very Merry Christmas. I hope whatever you're doing, it is magical for you. And as a little thank you for everybody that's supported this channel over the last 12 months, I have prepared, especially for Christmas, some ghostly Christmas tales. Now, they are going to be going live on the run up to Christmas Day itself. So Monday night at 7 o'clock, we've got the first one. Then one on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, and then the final one on Christmas Eve at 7 o'clock. I'm not doing them as a premiere, I'm just going to release them so that you can watch them or listen to them at your leisure, because these are audio stories and they are retellings of some of the classic M.R. James ghost stories. Quite creepy, quite spooky, really nice to listen to on a dark Christmas Eve or Christmas night. So you can maybe wrap it, you know, while you're wrapping your presents or while you're sitting down with a hot chocolate, you might want to put that on and listen to them, and they'll be going on the channel. So Merry Christmas everybody, and hopefully I will see you in between now and New Year, but if I don't, have a wonderful 2026 too.